Hello. Good afternoon to our European partners. Good late morning to our Americas partners. Uh, Thank you once again to TECHeGO for their sponsorship. The state of the industry discussion, this particular session, is also sponsored by them. Joining me again is Seth, as well as Jordan Fleming of SmartPhone and Game Changers. We'll take just a moment to get Jordan set up and Seth just to make sure, and then we'll dive right into it. I got a series of questions we'll go through. So Seth, are you there with us?
Yes, indeed.
Excellent. Jordan, are you there with us?
Yes, I am.
Jordan, you make your first appearance in our meetup here. I know for how long has the European meetup been going? When did that start?
4 years, I think we did it. I started the first one. I did the first one really just as a kind of just to see what would happen, and they became such enjoyable events. Not only do we build a lot of good friendships, because we know each other. But also every time I learned something new. Every time I learned new things, and Citrix got involved and were amazing. I think we're going on. This was going to be, I think, the 5th year.
That's right.
I think I should know this, but I don't remember.
When was your first? How did you run into Podio? What was your first experience? Well, how did you get into this mess?
So me, yeah. So back in the day, I was running a marketing consultancy in Scotland, and I'm an Apple computer guy, so I was using a system called Daylight, which is a Canadian company out of Toronto, Market Circle, and they build Apple apps for the Mac OS environment. And Daylight was kind of like, it was like a CRM / project management, but it wasn't very good at the project management bit. But it gave me, I needed something. And then I, as I usually do, I get involved in things. You can't really keep me away from getting involved in things. I unhelpfully put myself forward for everything. So I sort of got involved in the developer environment a little, which wasn't like Podio, because you couldn't customize Daylight, but you had these partners who built Daylight for people. And I wasn't really interested in that, but there was a partner there, and I'm not sure if I'm allowed to name her, the name of the person,
Marnie.
But there was, what?
Marnie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was Marnie, and she was like a really high up in Daylight partner. She'd won a bunch of awards, and I think Podio brought her in as well, or like, I probably with you, Seth, there was that kind of an early.
She was the first part. Yeah, she was in the first training class. Yeah.
Yeah. So she mentioned on the Daylight boards, which probably wasn't great for Daylight, but like, she posted a picture of her wearing Podio and was like, I've got this much better system now. And I took a look at it, and because of that, because I was like, because at the same time, I was also, the disadvantage of Daylight for me was I was trying to collaborate with people outside my organization, and if they weren't using Apple, they couldn't. And if they were using Apple, I had to spend $150 on a subscription for them, or a license for them. So I was looking for another tool at that point.
Yeah.
What year was that?
It was probably about 2010, 2011.
It was early-ish.
Yeah, 2012. Yeah. Right around there.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Yes. That's 8 years, 8+ years now. Time goes. But now,
Oh,
when did you two run into each other first?
Well, I knew I hated him the first time I saw him in Copenhagen, but then by that evening, it changed my mind that he was worth getting to know. That's when we met first. But I've seen his profile picture, like Podio stalked him, and of course, it was like a dating profile. You meet him for the first time, he's like, you look nothing like this.
That makes sense. Yeah, no. So strangely enough, Gil, Seth and I had never really interacted much until Copenhagen last year. At the, I mean, I knew of him. Like we all kind of know of each other, or know,
Rumors.
But the Seth and his wife came over to the Copenhagen event last year, and Andreas was there as well. Actually, that and that was when we first met. Incidentally, the first ever Podio partner meetup in Europe was just before Dan launched InvestorFuse. For those who know that ecosystem, and he was talking to, at that point we were chatting in the Citrix in Copenhagen. Have like a for that first event, there was like a canteen just across the road in another building. And I remember sitting down and eating lunch with Dan, and him talking about how he wanted to build a SaaS system, for real estate. And that was just before InvestorFuse launched.
Yeah.
It's a blast from the past.
I guess I've run into you gentlemen a much more recently relative.
Mm-hmm.
But I started with Podio. I was actually working in a nonprofit as a part of my job, and we needed a system to do a report for Office of Refugee Resettlement. And our IT person just ran into Podio on TechSoup, actually, is how I started down this journey. And that was December of 2012.
Mm-hmm.
And we started, that was I guess that was still pre-automation days, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Pre-GlobiFlow, or at least
early stage, if anything. I mean, I remember when GlobiFlow first launched as Podio Flow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes.
Hashtag great name. And I remember when it first launched, and how limited it was. But even then, you were suddenly like, ooh, and it was such all you could do is the basic kind of update,
Right.
change, create. You couldn't. There was no if statements. There was no, and there was none of the advanced stuff that everybody does now, which is almost unbelievable. But it was a step, which was exciting. I remember that.
What's interesting is one thing I've talked to people about. They said, somebody asked me, "Oh, what are you doing these days?" And I said, "Oh, I'm still working with Citrix Podio." And they said, "Man, you really must love that, And I said, "Oh, I do love the platform." And they said, "Well, what makes it so great?" And I said, "Well, it's community. It's the partner program. It's actually going through and actually, knowing these partners, and they become your friends, and that collaboration becomes literally a friendship." And so I love this platform because it's brought us all together. A huge amount of memories. I mean, I've spent more time at night with Podio than I think my own wife. She doesn't like, but it's provided a great life, and I have to look at that and say,
Seth, is she like my wife? I'll say the word Podio, and she's like, "Nope, don't even finish the sentence. Don't want to hear about it."
Yeah. There was a while she's like, "I can't even explain what it is you do because it doesn't make any sense to me." And then when I finally sat her down, she's like, "It's podium or I don't know. It's just he helps improve things, whatever."
That's great. Andrew Cranston in the chat says, "Best online community I've ever been a part of." Thank you, Andrew, and we're lucky to have you as well. We had on our podcast, we had a great conversation. There are some wonderful people in this community and in this industry that it is a niche knowledge base, right? Let's be honest. It's not that it's a hard knowledge base. It's just, there's not as many people as like a C# or a Java or something, right? Or Python or
Well,
anything.
can you name another community other than your alma mater where your customers are being swapped around like ex-girlfriends?
That depends on which communities you're involved with, man.
Well, exactly. I mean, BYU, you're not going to see that so much. But one thing that I do say is that's one thing that has been interesting, and that opened up my eyes after the Copenhagen meeting. A week later, we went to California and had a great session. After everything was done, we went back to the hotel and just hung out and had some drinks in the lobby, and it was just a fun time. But it made me realize how Americans are kind of viewed it as in some of the business transactions when it comes to international business, and the lack of trust that Americans have towards just, you're going to try to steal my business, or you're going to try to steal this. And when it finally dinged into me that this whole idea behind sharing the business and sharing the load and helping each other out and even covering for each other, that's where it goes beyond just like a partnership of Podio, and it actually becomes a partnership of partners becoming partners for each other. And I think that's one beautiful evolution that we're going to start to see in the next couple years.
I think it's a great point. And there's so many paths that have started to emerge in the Podio community. We've seen people that have continued a successful agency business. Jordan, you've launched a wonderful product, a Podio-based phone system. So there's just a lot of opportunities for us. We've been doing a lot of customized but templated at the same time, kind of a hybrid approach on how we service our clients. And sometimes that's productized, sometimes that's internal use. So there's just so much opportunity, and it's already a niche skill set, niche industry, but there's niches inside of those as well. I mean, you helped us so much with one of our clients, Seth, with some data issues that they needed a little faster than we could resolve. So, it's great to be able to find a super specialty talent, in Podio data, large database lifts. How many people on the face of the planet can attest and say that they do that?
Yeah, that's one thing that when you start getting to these enterprise level organizations, there's a lot of, and if you're dealing with a small company or small business, medium business, or enterprise, there's strategies behind each of those and how to really accomplish them. Because you may be able to land an enterprise account, but if you don't have the enterprise tools to be able to support those massive data loads and stuff like that, then you're going to be out of your depth really, really quick, and you need some good backup. And there's great people in the community who can do that. But when it comes to the disaster recovery and really doing heavy lifting and moving millions of items, we've built all of our extensions to facilitate getting things done easier without do that heavy load and heavy lifting with greater ease. And I think that's one of the coolest things about this whole partnership program, is that each of us have created other tools that complement, and there's not a lot of direct competition with one another, and it's turning into a very respectable and respectful partner community.
I would add, if I may, I would add I agree 100% about the community, and Seth, I would wholeheartedly agree with what you're saying about the collaboration and the close relationships. But I would also add, name me another software company where you have as close a relationship with the actual company. I mean, I think Sarah's on the call, and I know Sarah's presenting and Palabi's presenting, and I know I've been in Raleigh with the sales team at Citrix, and we know some of the, you know, that we know the developers, and we talk to them, and we, you know, and they don't just collaborate with the partners, but they reach out and talk to the users, and they answer questions. You see Sarah answering someone's questions on a GlobiFlow forum. Name me another system where you get that level of interaction, and whether that's purely a Podio thing or it's Citrix. I actually am inclined to believe that's kind of a bit of both. I think Citrix, my experience of Citrix being in California with the event, and to see just the level of engagement, we're lucky. And I, you know, like try getting that, try talking to Microsoft, or try talking to any of your normal systems that you use, and you're never going to get that same experience. And that is another thing I think Podio has not lost.
Yeah.
And
well,
and this
isn't a new development either. I mean, this is something that it's been like that since the beginning. I blame the Danish as,
as we should,
the Copenhagenans, but that has made it really a hugely powerful community. I mean, to attest to my own experience with that, it's like family. You know, in 2013, May of 2013, my 14-year-old daughter passed away. But I was literally sitting at my computer, and I got a phone call, and I'm working at you know, this Podio system. And before even telling anyone, I messaged in the Podio partner chat that what had just happened. And I got flowers from people. I got, you know, flowers from Citrix. It was such a warm, like instantaneous support. And sure, that's tragic, but it was something that just really was like, okay, they genuinely care. And it felt like work, where it was now a community, where it was actually just people that I work with, and dealing with all that. You know, people filled in for some clients for me, and I realized this is how business should be done, with a great support structure around it. And if there's people that, you know, are just barely joining the community, or even, you know, anyone out there, anyone at all it is starting out as nervous, you can't look at it as a competition thing. There's just no competition here. It's literally, we want to help you succeed and help you train, and so that way, and mainly because also, if we can teach you and help you build a better Podio system, it makes the client happier, and it reduces the risk of us running across your crappy system in the future.
Yeah, that's true. We've seen some, we've run into some systems. We won't name any names. I don't think any of them are probably in the Podio community today that we've run across. But yeah, I want to really close out that point, Seth, that you're making, which is just, yeah, this is a community that people should reach out to when they need help.
Oh yeah.
Do not feel intimidated. Do not feel
that,
everyone's always new at this. It's because it is so niche. You know, we're all very new at it, and it's continuing to evolve, and just the way that we've been able to use it and grow over the years. So
honestly, if there's a small business owner out there that is, or even just one of your partners, that it is like 3 a.m, you are exhausted beyond all belief, to the point of tears even, and you have something that needs to get done for a client, and you are all alone in your business, you should be reaching out to another partner, anybody on this call. And because we've all been there, you know, and well,
and people,
that's how it should be.
Because of its worldwide use, there's somebody online. You know, if it's a 3 a.m.
Usually it's Seth, actually.
I don't know. Do you ever leave, Seth, or you just?
No, my secret, and everybody asks me what my secret is. It is meth and a good dentist. It's been the best.
Well, that's at least productive. I would say that. I got a couple of questions. I want to move on. So you know, I think reminiscing here, and then also talking about how the community is supportive is the state of our industry. And I think it's a welcoming community that is going through some changes. And I know we've had some rough seas, especially a few years back, and from time to time. But I think that overall, my experience as a user of the product, not just somebody that sells it to others and implements for others, but as a user, has gotten better. I think over time, especially over the 8 years of my use, roughly 8 years of my use. So I know that there's a new kid on the block with Workspace. Seth, it seems like you've been able to get your hands in on it. Jordan, you've seen it, and I know you and I have had a lot of conversations and some things that we're working together on. I'll let you disclose those if you wish, but I think there's some very the future of Podio is very bright with the Workspace product, and I want to get your all's take on it from the positions, because I think these are two great perspectives to get. We'll start with you, Seth.
Yeah, sure. So Citrix Workspace, to be honest with you, at the very beginning, I thought, why are we going down this path? Why are we doing this when we can just extend this into Podio? But I can see the point of it now, and after actually playing with it, and now having done this massive demo, huge undertaking on that respect. The working directly with Rado, product developer, and Thomas Warner, another product director.
Quick shout out to those two gentlemen. I've met them a couple of times. Wonderful guys.
Yeah, it was fantastic working with them for a good a month straight to get this application pulled together. In the end, I told them, look, I can see how this needs to get implemented, and how Podio how these two systems are going to complement each other, and how I'm so excited that I'm started preparing graphics of where the overlap is, basically an architecture of where these overlaps are, because I think that this is going to be really taking Podio to the next level, especially if we can take, open up some of the, like for example, the app integrations component piece that was once turned off, and extending that functionality. And so I'm incredibly excited about how that's going to function and flow.
There are some things that people have been asking for in Podio for several years that I think Workspace is going to be able to solve and take to the next level. There's some concern about it's another product, and a lot of people that go to Podio are people that are more cost sensitive on their monthly carry. So I think there's some things that will have to be able to show value to clients, and I think Workspace is beginning to prove that. And when we have conversations about Workspace with clients, there tends to have to be a little bit of education, which is not always fun to do, not always cost effective sometimes, but there's some investment there. But once that light bulb pops on, and then we can show them either they're already a Podio user possibly, or if they have not seen Podio, it's almost natural, like have a Workspace conversation and a Podio conversation, probably at the same time, right? You're getting the cake and the frosting, and it's together is what makes it magical.
Yeah. So I think that one thing that I've realized, those employees that are out there that you just want them to not mess anything up. You don't want to have to troubleshoot and figure out how the heck they got, that created when it shouldn't even be created in that field. Those type of mess ups, those employees need to be in a Workspace where it's just literally click, click, click. It does get you to that point of a 3-click workflow, and that's the beauty.
About anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. And it consolidates so much. And there will be companies that will need, for those entry-level, easy training, build out Citrix Workspace. But, building out Podio and Citrix Workspace, that's double work. And so I think I've come to a realization of how that needs to get, consolidated. And I only say and I hope it's taken. I'll submit my proposals to the system, but we'll see how the chips fall.
Jordan, your experience with Workspace, its impact on Podio so far.
Well, I would say two things. And I would follow up with actually something that Alex just posted up on the chat, which was that no-code, low-code development is really becoming popular with Google, AWS, and others. Podio developers have a skill set that is ahead of the curve. I would link the two together in the sense that, and part of this comes down to the current situation in the world, which is different and unique. And there are two things that I think Workspace and Podio are primed to take advantage of. And that is, number one, businesses are starting to think about systems as workflow, as opposed to just data repositories. They were always like, this is where I put my fucking files, or this is where I do this. Like, you know, there were always these endpoint things, but they weren't really, they were about storing things, or this is where my contacts are, and this is where my emails are. And the idea, the concept of workflow, of managing, of driving, of automating, and of embedding workflow is starting to take off as people want the efficiency, they want the collaboration, and all of that. So right away, that positions Podio. And then the second thing where this all dovetails is, if you think about the last 10 years of sort of software, we went from, or probably, I don't know, 10, 15, whatever, build your own enterprise level software and invest 400,000. Okay, that's one extreme. And then we went to the let's all have 400 different SaaSes and everybody's got to bounce around 15 systems because this is my project management system and this is my CRM. And I'm using Salesforce to this and blah, 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 right? And then the middle ground that we're starting to come back to, which is perfect for both Podio and Workspace, is I can't have everybody bopping around. I need them to focus on what they need to focus on. Podio does that by integrating all this functionality together. Workspace does that by bringing exactly what they need to see when they need to see it without having them to go across. And those two things, the increased value being placed on workflow and the increased desire to consolidate the experience and cut noise, perfect. That is the wheelhouse for Podio and Workspace.
Yeah,
that's my view.
It's something that we talked about at the last Converge was the idea of filling in gaps using Podio. So when enterprise customers come, right, not even enterprise, SMB, I mean, anybody really north of 25 employees, right? They come to some of these monolith systems. You don't want to rip and replace that. It's extra costs. It's an uphill battle to sell it to them. Unless they absolutely need it or the reason they're coming to you is to get rid of something. They're going to have these systems lying around. Podio is a nice gap filler. So if they're using a Workday for some things, but maybe and I'll just make something up, maybe it's PTO that's missing. Instead of them going and paying either the monolith or go buying another monolith or buying a specialty piece of software, we can just quickly give them a templated PTO application via Podio, and we can deliver that Workspace micro app functionality, almost like I always dub it a store brand, right? Like the only way that you interact with it is via Workspace. It's not going to have a separate login. Maybe the HR administrator can get into Podio, of course, but the employees are never going to go into an employee portal. Mm-hmm. That's an extreme example, but it's something that allows us to backfill in and actually give them the complete solution that they're looking for. And we found that if we can tie in the other technologies that they're using, and thread some Podio throughout from time to time, that it makes that tech stack work better together and the implementations are better success.